Welcome to our annual Candlelight Vigil, where we gather to honor and remember those whose lives have been affected by domestic violence and bring awareness to the community and public health issue. I am Melissa Giebel, Calumet County Outreach Coordinator for Harbor House Domestic Abuse Programs. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and I stand before you today on behalf of my colleagues and advocates worldwide committed to shining a light on survivor stories. Today, we ask you to join us in collective brightness by participating in our Purple Porch Project campaign that runs through the month of October. Our vision is to see all of our communities lit up purple this month to show you support survivors and care about the issue of domestic violence. Purple Porch Project kits are available for a $10 donation here in Chilton at Seasons by Design and in Appleton at Avenue Art Company and Amano Print House during their business hours. We hope you will shine with us. Tonight, it is my honor to introduce you to a survivor who is courageously shining her light to share her story with all of us. Jessica has taught me a lot through her eyes as a survivor. She has the drive to make sure that survivor voices are heard. She has pushed me to think critically about how I do my work. It's been a continual reminder that survivors really do know best about their situation and need to be centered in our mission to help us in every facet of our work in this movement, from community awareness to systemic improvement.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jessica, and I am a survivor. Exactly 1 year ago today, my life took an unexpected turn that led me to be a spectator in this very vigil on October 2nd of last year. I cowered in a seat next to my mother, amongst victims, survivors, and supporters, feeling incredibly broken and filled with shame. So to be able to share my story here today, I am filled with an abounding amount of gratitude, especially for the Harbor House and Melissa, my advocate. I met what I believed was the love of my life in 2012. I did not choose to be with an abuser. I chose to be with someone who was nurturing, compassionate, and incredibly charming. I fell in love with and invested myself in a man that shared my interests, my values, and my dreams. I shared my desires and fears with the facade of a man I believed in, and in turn, he used them in exploitation. 5 months into the relationship, I was less than thrilled to find out we were pregnant. Not him. He was ecstatic, not a crack in his voice. So I believed I was about to live my happily ever after as he moved here to live with me and start our family. That was the beginning of the financial attachment, as he convinced me to wire him a considerable amount of money to buy a new vehicle. But I shouldn't look at it as if I'm buying it for him. I'm buying it for us, our family. Everything we work for in our lives will be for our family. I accepted his request for my hand in marriage with a ring that he also effortlessly convinced me to buy. I wanted to be engaged. I thought that it would lessen the judgment I was afraid to receive of the true blessing of a baby about to enter my unwed life. I never ended up marrying him. I couldn't stand before God and commit to a man I knew would never commit himself to me. Once I was pregnant and fully invested, his mask began to slip and the real terror followed. There was an incident in 2014 that landed me on the doorstep of the Harbor House, right to Melissa, who was ready and eager to help me. But I wasn't ready. I remember being so angry at him that he had to go and do something that I couldn't cover up from the rest of the world. I wasn't fully aware yet of the horrific caliber of the man that I loved and desperately wanted to rehabilitate. Our son had just turned 1, and I wanted us to be a family at all costs. I took him back within a year's time at the price of my own integrity. As soon as he was back, the real isolation ensued. I lost myself completely in those next 5 years. The abuse was so gradual and calculated that I didn't begin to see it until I was so deeply entangled in his web. I was filled with such humiliation. I didn't dare show or share how bad it was, and he thrived in my silence. I tried relentlessly to rationalize the utter chaos around me. My self-identity annihilated, and I was paralyzed in self-doubt through the years of his reality-warping gaslighting. My abuser became an unrecognizable addiction, but not overnight, and certainly not even all at once. The bond formed was based on my survival, regardless of the betrayal of infinite infidelities, the destruction, or the abuse. My main focus was always on keeping the peace, a relentless search for harmony, the pursuit of perfection, and trying to learn the ways that I triggered him because this clearly had to be my fault. I lived every day in primal fear, confusion, and shame. Where that began and where it would end, I did not know. I no longer trusted my own judgment. I was so far from clueless as to what normal could have even felt. I only received signs of what I convinced myself were love from him because I rationalized and lied to myself daily to survive my own pathetic self. While my once dream come true partner lacked any form of empathy and only demonstrated an incredible sense of entitlement. Metaphorically, it was as if he had given me the entire pie of himself in those first 5 months, of which I could never forget. A pie that I truly desired, cherished, and relished in. Once I had my fill, he only had to throw crumbs my way to remind me how delectable my life could be, although in reality, never truly would be. The only part of my relationship that was bliss was the time it took for him to set that trap. I live in paranoia about people's motivations, constantly looking for insults or hidden agendas where there may not even be any. Last year, sitting here, I thought, how did I deserve to be at a vigil where the survivor story I listened to had her beautiful life almost beaten from her on multiple tragic occasions? I felt like I didn't deserve help and would be getting in the way of people who needed it more than myself. I didn't even know I wanted to accept help. That would mean lying to myself was over, and that I would be vulnerable to a community I thought looked up to me. But on that date, I firmly believed I would die and my children would be left with a horrific life if I ever looked back. The emotional and psychological abuse was far more scarring for me than any of the physical abuse ever was. One could argue that perhaps the physical wasn't that bad. For me, that would be true. That is how I felt. I would have rather endured the physical pain. I did not suppress the episodes of physical abuse. I merely lost the memories as my ultimate fear was death and not being here for my children. The pathological anxiety was debilitating at best, so being pushed, pulled, tackled, thrown around, choked, held against my will, that was the easy stuff. I had submitted everything to him. I abandoned my family and my friends. He obtained control over my work hours, my cell phone usage, what I wore, didn't wear, even the color he wanted my hair. I was easy prey. He promised a small town, naive girl, a pipe dream of an unconditional, lifelong, fairy tale type of love, and then shredded me to almost a million pieces. He knew exactly what he had, but who he had never mattered. His true wants were status, image, luxury, control. He was able to fill those wants with me and through me. I was his host, and he my parasite. I wasn't able to realize I needed out until I was able to see these things. I took him back the first time because I felt like I was doing it for our son. But after the years, As our son grew older and our daughter was now watching, I could not escape the reality of my life and the way it would transform these innocent witnessing minds. When I started to stop feeling his wants, he panicked and became irrational to try to sustain himself. When I altogether conveyed it was over, he came unglued. Not even the fear of the tarnished image I was about to make for myself could stop this, although my happy life imagery on social media never fooled those closest to me. It's been a whirlwind trying to find the right support in the criminal justice system and the family court system at large. In fact, many parts of it left me feeling more victimized than my relationship. Those around me leaving me to feel like it's my voice, but I dare not use it. Trying to explain the level of terror living with someone that is too calculated to leave you with marks as proof. Trying to explain that you need a restraining order without proof of broken bones or black and blue eyes because you won't be graced with battery. It will be death. Dealing with a sophisticated manipulator that creates lies and manufactures actual events for their undeserved self-preservation. Filing multiple reports of injunction violations only to have them never be referred. When reporting the ruling of a judge's timeline of events not being honored, I was told, there are certain things we slam our fists on the table for, not for everything. Well, the proverbial slamming of my fists on tables was something I became rather accustomed to having to do to seek true justice. Dealing with family court appointed attorneys that don't put in their due diligence to seek the truth, victim shame, and suggest in court documents that I seek counseling for codependency, which through relentless research and counsel, I've realized codependent, I am not. A traveling judge overseeing one of the preliminary hearings, making the comment to an open courtroom that everyone in here must have far more important things to do. Dealing with corruption as a person bound by law enforcement code of ethics, abused their role and my trust while able to slip through the cracks. Constantly bearing the burden of proof when the defense can build their case on fake news. Seeking justice from a jury of 12 to have them give multiple, devastating, not guilty verdicts as if my very own life did not matter. On top of all of this, I was dealing with the incredibly horrific dynamic knowing that I needed to mourn the 7-year relationship that produced 2 children. The only thing worse would have been 7 years and 1 day. I was far from his first victim, and he just kept perfecting his game. But that didn't change the fact that I thought it was real, and there was an aching despair just lingering in me. I had to grieve my loss and couldn't get to that point because I was enraged that I was sad. How do you mourn a figment of your imagination? Why should anyone be put in the circumstance to have to? Then I realized I couldn't grieve properly because of the guilt I assigned to myself. I thought the pain of loss was something I deserved for believing in the lies of my abuser. I firmly know that staying in that relationship was not consent. I realized I needed to stop with the victim shaming of myself. When it became apparent that I didn't need to forgive myself for being a good person, I was able to process. I never chose to be with an abuser. No actions on my behalf rendered him to abuse me. So what did I actually need to forgive myself for? And then I allowed the anguish to surface. I almost have to take myself outside of my being to wrap my head around all of it. All of this would have proven too much for me to continue without real support. My family and close friends have been with me every step of the way. Their arms always open to me no matter how many times I let them down by remaining in my silent misery. There have also been people in the judicial system that are impeccable at their jobs and significant to my journey. I'd like to mention their names with gratitude. Circuit Court Judge Jeffrey Freilich, District Attorney Nathan Haberman, Family Court Commissioner Gordon Stillings, Victim Witness Julie Leverins, Chief of Police Craig Plain, Police Officer Joshua Harn, and my incredible family law attorney Scott Metz. I must say, as I stand here before you, I shudder to think how this transformation would have gone without the support from the Harbor House. My advocate, Melissa, has been instrumentally invaluable to this path. It's such an incredible ally to have in you, Melissa. You have and continue to navigate me through this journey every step of the way. And unfortunately for you, at all hours of the day. The amount of knowledge and resources provided to me have served me higher than I could have ever expected. And it's mind-blowing to know that the most resourceful, competent, trusted, understanding, and compassionate tool that I have access to costs me nothing. Melissa, you have enriched my life, and along with my unwavering faith, gave me the true ability to survive. In closing, a nurse practitioner by the name of Stacy, a fellow survivor and new friend, made me realize keeping the focus in the future on my abuser is quite frankly something he would enjoy. You know, I've hated the word victim from the start. No matter what choices a person makes, they never consciously choose to be a victim, nor do their choices render victimization. Victims are strong. Living through abuse and trying to find harmony within utter chaos is quite the challenge. But doing that won't change our destiny. In fact, it makes our lives worse. The more we take it upon ourselves to forgive this one last time, because surely things can't get worse. They love us. Surely they will change. When in fact, our lives do get worse. Forgiveness allows them to break us down even more. Any abuse that is forgiven is doomed with worse abuse. Surviving is a choice. We make the decision to survive our surroundings every day, but deciding our destiny is the ultimate choice that catapults the victim to a whole other level. It's understanding they will never change, so it's your time to make the necessary changes. Today does not mark the 1-year anniversary of his offenses. Today, October 1st, is the 1-year anniversary where, by the grace of God, I stood up and decided this is not what my life was destined for. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Dina Grundle. I work for Advocate Aurora Healthcare as a forensic nurse, and I've been doing so for about 12 years. We have a program that is able to serve victims of violence. We have been able to provide services and been able to give patients choice and start to be able to give their control back. Many years ago when I started this work, when people would ask me what kind of work did I do, I would sort of whisper and say I took care of domestic violence patients and victims of violence. And one day I realized that me whispering wasn't being a voice for them. And I sort of changed my behaviors and decided that I'm going to be a voice and I'm going to be a loud voice. And Aurora and Advocate have allowed me to do that. Domestic violence happens to everyone, all ages, races, religion, gender, incomes, education levels. Author Leslie Morgan Steiner said, "We have the power to end domestic violence simply by shining a spotlight on it." And that is what we're doing today on the first day of Domestic Violence Awareness Month. We work very diligently and hard to work with our community partners here in Calumet County. And as Jessica spoke, she listed some great things that we're doing, and we're working hard to try to do the right thing to allow patients and victims to make choices. But she also talked about some opportunities, and we're going to continue to listen to our patients and our victims and our survivors to try to make those changes in their name. That is the opportunity that we have in front of us. We have opportunities every single day, and we need to understand that domestic violence is always here, but we can make a choice to do something different by talking and acknowledging what is happening in our community. As a forensic nurse, I get the honor and privilege to meet with our patients almost every single day. With power of control, the first choice that we need to be able to give our patients is the choice of what healthcare that looks like for them, what resources they want, and the time to make those choices. We work hard with Harbor House to make sure that every patient that presents to our hospital has an advocate at their side to help them guide through the process. We work with law enforcement, the district attorney's office, aging and disability. All of those resources are resources for our patients and our victims and survivors in our community. Thank you very much.
We begin this evening by remembering the lives lost due to domestic violence in Outagamie County in the last 12 months by reading their names and joining in a moment of silence. Madeline Sampson, 4 years old. Haley Pop, 3 months old. Si Cheng Zhang, 36. William Byer, 5 years old. Danielle Byer, 3 years old. Diana Corbin, 3 years old. As the COVID pandemic rages on with high infection rates in our area and economic hardship escalates, creating more strain and stress in home, we know that domestic violence is on the rise. 1 out of every 4 women and 1 out of every 7 men experience domestic violence. It is present in our community, and it's likely in your network of family and friends. In a time when we are asking people to physically distance, we must not socially distance. Reach out to your family and friends. If you suspect someone is in an abusive situation, Harbor House is ready and willing to help you and that individual. We are available 24/7 with a crisis line, shelter, and advocacy for victims of domestic violence at 920-832-1667. Domestic violence thrives in silence and darkness. As a community, we voices to shine a light on this issue. Join us this October, Domestic Violence Awareness Month, for the Purple Porch Project. Light our community up purple in support of domestic violence survivors. Find information on our Facebook page or at harborhousewi.org/Purple Porch Project.
Not yet. I'll give you one.
Thank you, Amber. We invite you now to light your virtual candle this evening by sharing the image from our Harbor House Facebook page on your personal social media platforms. Please join us in recognizing the seven women whose voices have been silenced here in Calumet County. They are being showcased by our silent witnesses behind us. We remember you, we honor you. Cynthia Bach. Kathleen Remter. Gloria Wickersheim. Sarah Schmidt. Michelle Yeager. Phoebe Hendricks Ducharme. Charlotte Castell. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time out of your evening to join us for our Candlelight Vigil. Again, we encourage you to light your virtual candle this evening by sharing our candlelight image from our Harbor House Facebook page. We will include our event with a poem written and recorded by a Harbor House client. Only together we can rise.
Smile, laugh, or cry. All the emotions and feels of what a year can do. My heart hurts for all we've been through. We are safer now than we were before life, because from now on, you'll hear me roar. Wow, what a year can really do for your soul. I don't know what I would do without those helping me to reach my goal. You did more than you think, more than you could ever know. The support, love, and hugs has helped me to feel so much more whole. This last year has been unpredictable, to say the very least. In unprecedented times, as this pandemic is truly a beast. I've been able to see God's love in the darkest of times, from people, nature, and all different kinds. Take a moment, relax, and watch the kiddos play. Don't worry about those who did not stay. Remember that you are worthy of being safe and secure. God loves you. He will bring you the ones who will help you endure. So smile, laugh, or cry. It's been a year. You are safe now. You were not meant to live in fear.